Hi, y'all. It is the 49th episode of Life Possible with a Disability. One of my very first guests, way back in the beginning, one of my guinea pig was Justin Richardson, who is my friend and coworker. Justin, hi, how are you?
I'm great, Karen. How are you? Thanks for having me back on the
Good.
podcast.
I'm so glad you're here. Well, the last one was really fun. It was sex and dating with a disability, and we were both dating, and I think you were already dating your future fiance, but you weren't engaged yet, and I was not dating my future fiance, and now I'm engaged. So apparently, we got that down pat. We can move on.
So, in other words, everyone should go back, watch that episode, and just kind of take our advice because it works. So, yeah.
We're highly effective and knew exactly what we were talking about. So yes, definitely go back. But in real life, Justin is the executive director of the Numotion Foundation, and a lot of great things have happened under Justin's leadership of the Numotion Foundation. So, my first question is exactly what is the Numotion Foundation?
Yeah, so the Numotion Foundation is the philanthropic arm of Numotion, and we give to other 501c3 nonprofit organizations that provide services and opportunities to primarily to the communities that we serve, so mobility related disability population.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I love the things that we do. We're getting ready to kind of dig into some of those, but kind of tell us over the history of the foundation. Tell us a little bit about how much y'all have contributed and kind of what's happened since the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy to think about, but we launched in 2018. We didn't really give out our first, our first full cycle was not until 2019, but our first contribution was to Morgan's Wonderland in Texas, which is
I remember
an
that.
amazing facility.
You had the big check.
We had the big check. Yeah. You know what? One of these days I want to receive a big check. And so,
Right?
but
Would it be the
yeah, a little lottery win, something like that. But that
Yep.
was our first contribution, and then 2019 was our first kind of full year of our grant cycle. And since then, it's amazing to say we've contributed over $2.5 million to the community.
That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
And by the end of this year, it'll be over $3 million. So we've contributed.
Wow, are you
It
serious?
will. Yeah, it will. So mostly domestic organizations, and then we've also had some targeted giving that's occurred outside of the United States as well.
um, So, and then, yeah, and I guess we'll get into a little bit of that, but we did a good bit after the Ukraine for specifically for people with mobility impairment, and you'll probably talk about that later. But those stories were very impactful about where those funds went. Um, how is the Numotion Foundation funded?
So it's primarily funded by Numotion. That's what one would expect, since we are the Numotion Foundation. A portion of every chair sold goes back to the foundation, which is incredible. So Numotion is the primary funder of our organization. We've also been very fortunate to have some very generous donors that are connected to our board of directors and to our space that have provided some significant contributions for the past 4 or 5 years. So we're incredibly thankful for that. And then we also have fundraiser opportunities, and this is our second year of having 3 full opportunities. In the past, we've had only 2, but this year and last year we've had 3. And those events raise a significant amount of funds, and it's a combination of Numotion employees, people from our industry, and also people from outside of our industry.
Yeah. So tell us about the types of organizations that receive these funds. I know that they kind of it's a broad spectrum, but yeah, tell us kind of the gamut. Maybe give some specific examples.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have everything from our kind of major, long-lasting partnerships that carried over from Numotion, such as the ALS Association and United Spinal Muscular Dystrophy Association. So those have always kind of been around and been a part of Numotion's work, and also the foundation's work. But we also spend a significant amount of our money and our contributions that are directed towards our discretionary budget that are kind of small mom and pop organizations across the country. And that, to me, the foundation board is well aware of the fact that I'm very protective of the discretionary budget. I love what we do with our national partners, but it's amazing to see what $1,000 can do in a small community for a specific population, or to see just how far those funds can go with absolutely zero overhead, where almost every dollar that you contribute goes back into the community. So I love the discretionary budget. I love our partnerships with our major national partners, but the discretionary budget holds a special place in my heart.
Yeah, so tell us like about some of those, like those, this like the ones that are the smaller, and I think I'm really proud of you for you do a lot of research and you look at what the large organizations are doing with those funds, and the percentage that is overhead. Like, are the funds actually going to the people that will benefit from this, right? And I've seen you make decisions, and the other people that are involved in making those decisions are careful about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. We are very careful about. We have to be good steward of the funds that are provided to us, and we want to make sure when we distribute those funds that they're going towards goods and services primarily for our community, instead of going to an office space somewhere. Of course, everybody has overhead. There's no way to get around that, but
Right.
even the small mom and pops do, nonprofits do. But
Yeah.
obviously, our goal would be to make sure that those funds return to the community as much as possible. So we are careful about that. We do have conversations with our national partners at the beginning of every year before we renew our agreement with them, kind of about what their plans are, how they intend to use the funds. They're always very transparent, and they've always been great partners, which is why we continue to partner with them year after year after year. And we feel confident that the funds will be used appropriately once they're provided. With the smaller orgs, it's a little harder to do, but the impact is so visible. Just seeing, when they provide impact stories, which you can see on our website, numotionfoundation.org, there's quite a few impact stories that show kind of the impact of our funding. It's so obvious when you help someone with a walk and roll, or a 5K or something like that, and they ask for $250. I mean, the answer is typically going to be yes, because that $250 to them was a humble ask that would make a huge difference in their fundraising
Yeah.
total. So we're always happy to contribute any way we can. Now, with that said, we can't fund every organization that applies to us, and we do have to make
Right.
a lot of tough decisions every year. I think around a third of our applicants we're able to fund, and the other two-thirds we unfortunately
Right.
are not. So tough choices have to be made, and if people, for whatever reason, were denied funding, in 2023, we still encourage them to come back in 24, because we do hope to increase available funds and also spread the level around as much as we possibly can.
Right. One thing I got to do last year was attend the Fashion is for Everybody. Is one of the organizations, and so she has a disability herself. She's a wheelchair user. That she's a fashion designer and does a fashion show that is inclusive of everyone. But it's almost more than not wheelchair users that are, and people with other disabilities that are on the runway. And anyway, I got to see that in action, and it's extremely impactful, I think, too. And it's gotten to be like a big deal too, like as far as like the fashion designers that are involved in doing these designs for people that are wheelchair users. And I don't know, that's just one small
I
example.
love that event. I mean, you see I've never had a chance to attend. I'd love to. It's in Tennessee. My schedule just hadn't worked out to be
Yeah,
able to attend that, but it looks like a legit fashion show from Back to School or
yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And they do such.
I'm modeling this year,
You are?
which is horrifying. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, maybe this is the year that I'm going
Maybe this is the yeah. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it isn't.
to.
Yeah. When I had to give my measurements, I just wanted to die. But yeah, so because I've like tried to worm my way out of it a couple of times, especially mostly with my fiance. I was like, maybe I can't fit it in the schedule. He's like, oh yes you
I think you should. And maybe this year's the year to make it down.
can.
That's such a great event, and that type of thing where it promotes inclusivity. Not just um, you know for everybody. And that event is fashion is for everybody, and
Yeah,
everybody. I love that event. I love what.
everybody.
Yeah, it's great. I love what the Texas Ramp Project does. That's another organization that if anybody hears me talk about the foundation, I bring them up a lot. But it's just a group of people that on the weekends get together and build ramps on people's houses so they
Wow.
can get in and out of their house. It's not fancy. There's not a lot of overhead. It goes directly
Yeah.
towards. And at the end of the year, they send us a note and it tells us how many ramps they built. And if you want to see, I mean,
Wow.
that's immediate impact when you can say, hey, we built 25 ramps.
That's
Yeah.
huge. I wish every community had a build around, because as a social worker that was discharging people years ago, we had one. It was like more of a church type organization, I believe, and I can't. But we called them a lot because there were people that were going
Mhm.
home as a wheelchair user that they walked out of their house one day and never walked back in, and they couldn't really get home till the ramp was built, and there was no funds to do it unless you had a nonprofit.
Right. And we both discharged from a rehab at some point in time in our lives. Cause I mean, I remember not having access to a vehicle for the first 6 or 8 months while I figured out what I was going to drive and, going through driver training. And that drove me absolutely nuts. I can't imagine if on top of that, I couldn't even get in my backyard or go in the front yard or meet, feed the
Right.
family outside. So
Yeah.
that's a huge impact. And then there's other orgs like Hope Loves Company. They serve the ALS population, but their mission is to take care of the families of people living with ALS, especially the children, because
Wow.
I talk about this. It took me a long time to realize this. After my injury almost 20 years ago, I realized that this didn't just happen to me. It also happened to my family and the people that I love, and they need support and love too. And this is a very hard time for them when I was going through rehab and after my injury. So obviously, probably a little harder for me, and probably a little harder for you. But
Yeah.
our families
Yeah.
still experienced it with us, and they deserve and need support. And Hope Loves Company supports families as once people are diagnosed, and I think that's an incredible mission to
It's
have.
huge.
Yeah. So
Yeah. I mean, they get forgotten, I think, in all of that. And, and it is extremely impactful.
it is.
I guess I never thought about because I was 19, so I didn't have children yet. I had a younger brother and a mom and dad, but I can only imagine what it's like if it's a parent and there are children involved in ALS strikes. Then it's cool.
Yeah. The family things. It's an important piece because I mean I think about it now, even to this day, and my family is awesome about it. I'm sure yours is too, and like it's just second nature now. But it
Yeah.
changes the dynamic for everybody. Everything that we do, everything how we do it, when we do it. I mean, it changes for everybody. So
Right.
it's
Yeah,
important
that's true.
to remember the families, as part of this. And then one other one that I'd like to mention is you mentioned it briefly earlier was the contributions that we've been able to make to Ukraine to this year, and really it's affected and primarily targeted towards the refugees of that conflict. And whatever your politics may be about it, however you may feel about it, there are people in that region right now that are suffering and have been for the past year or
Yeah.
so since the conflict started. And it's been incredible to see just the impact stories that they've provided back to us to let us know how those funds are being used. And a lot of it's almost micro loans where it's $75, but $75 was the difference between
Wow.
someone being able to get medication or a cushion for their wheelchair during the winter. And this is not really as much of an issue now, but during the winter, almost everyone was struggling to obtain heating fuel. And when I say heating fuel, I don't mean gas. I mean people were trying to find firewood. That's how tough it was.
Wow.
And I provided this information to the board of directors. There was a separate survey that was done to one of the other organizations that we funded in Ukraine. And it asked how many of their members had their home had been partially or totally destroyed by the conflict. And almost 50% of them answered in
Wow.
the affirmative that their homes had either been partially or totally destroyed. So there was, and we all know how hard it is just with accessible housing here, in the States. We both have experienced that as I'm building a house, you're building a house right now. We're both in like temporary housing while our houses are being built or taken care of. And it was hard to find
Yep.
that housing. It's difficult to make that happen. So
And there, I can't even imagine.
no. And not only that, people with disabilities remain left behind as people flee the fighting, which is awful because public transportation wasn't as readily available. Getting access to transportation difficult on a regular day, so people are just being left behind. I mean, we're talking about like on the
That's insane.
8th floor of their apartment building and no way out. While there's shelling going on outside. So, we were happy to provide that. We did provide $100,000 in funding to Ukraine
Amazing.
since the conflict started, and our partners there have been amazing in reporting back their the way that those funds have been used, and it has been one of the more impactful things we've ever done because not only did they say we served 10 people, they're giving us individual stories of how we serve
Right.
people. It's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
And people can see those on the numotionfoundation.org.
So on the numotionfoundation.org, there are some photos. We have not put up every story and every photo. I bet I have 70 individual stories. It's
Stories.
impossible to post them all, but some of them are on the website. But you can check out the Ukraine stories. You can check out, a lot of our other impact stories. There's, I think, 4 or 5 pages worth of impact stories on the website.
Yeah.
And new ones are
And you
added,
should.
constantly. I added one yesterday, so
Great.
check it out.
Okay. So this is the fun part. I love this part. So we do a lot as a company to do fundraising events, and you plan all of that, and it's quite impressive. So tell us about some of them, because we've done a lot of fun things. So I almost died eating. What was it? What was I? Oh, saltine crackers.
Saltine crackers, yeah.
I almost died eating saltine crackers to raise money. Yeah.
Which is way harder than it sounds like it would be.
It is.
So we have three events. One of them is primarily internal, that's aligned with the Numotion National Leadership Conference. But we typically do some type of internal fundraising challenge that leads up to the kind of the big live event. And then we have live fundraising challenges with some people that participate that I'm able to rope them into it, like Karen.
Yeah.
I've used our friendship.
But I didn't have to do and I wouldn't have done the pepper thing.
Right.
Whatever that.
You did not do the hot chip challenge. That's true. But I did get you to do the saltine thing. But we have some live challenges. We also, the past few years, have had a comedian, which is always fun. We had Zach Anner and Josh Blue. So, nationally well-known comedians have joined us and kind of help host the event as we raise funds. And that event just boggles my mind every year. We have great participation with Numotion employees. It's after hours. So there's things that they could be doing other than doing this. But donating 5, 10, 25, 40, 50 bucks at a time, we raise a boatload of money. $75,000 sometimes, just in funds leading up to that event and that night. And the majority of that is from Numotion employees. It's incredible to see that generosity. I love it because it gives people buy-in into what the foundation does and how we're doing it. They're engaged and involved. And of course, the goal here is to make sure that that we engage with our communities as well. And I love to see people volunteering on behalf of the foundation after they've contributed, and they get to see how those funds are used in the communities we serve. So that's one great event. And like you said, you did the saltine challenge this year. How was it, a minute that we had to eat as many saltines?
It's like a minute. And I mean, I did better because I started doing there's different strategies about like 2 crackers at a time or not 2 crackers, because like you can't swallow them and you can't drink water or anything.
Right.
So, but I like there's the world record is some really low number. I can't remember, but it's like you wouldn't think that it would be low, but like 6 is a huge accomplishment. And that the second time I did it, that's what I did.
I think 5 was my best. The first 2 you get takes all the saliva out of your mouth and makes it impossible. That. It's like chewing on a t-shirt or cardboard or
it's real pretty.
But we had some great challenges this past time with a Peloton team trying to challenge cycle as much as we had some. And in the past, we've done the hot chip challenge, which has been amazing. Our CEO, Mike.
Yeah, watching people suffer. The people pay big bucks to watch our senior leaders suffer.
They do, and not only did people pay for it during that event, what I understand, they struggled for days after the hot chip challenge.
Right. I'm no fool. I only struggled during the saltine challenge, not all the other.
Right. Yeah. So
after effects.
They struggled for days after. So I'm thankful for all them. So that's a good event. And then we have a virtual auction that is typically open to our employees and to the manufacturing partners and the people that contribute items. And that's anything from small items or home items to I think someone last year contributed some amazing box seats at Fenway for Red Sox.
Wow.
We have some really cool things that are on tap for this year that I'm working on right now. That event's going to be July 31st through August 4th. And then last, this is our second annual golf outing. We did one last year in right outside of Nashville, and this year we're doing a second event right outside of Nashville. Next year we're looking at a different location, but for right now, we are going to be in Nashville this year, and we're super excited about that. That's going to be on Thursday, August 14th. We're seeking sponsors and participants at this point. So if anyone is interested in participating in the event, then you can sign up through the website. If you go to numotionfoundation.org, there's a tab that says 2023 golf outings. You can check that out. If you're interested.
I'm planning on being there to volunteer.
Yeah. Okay.
See what I can do.
I'll hold you to that for sure.
Yeah, I'll be there. Planning on being there. living close by now. I have no real good excuse not to come sweat with everyone else.
Well, and the cool thing is there's going to be some adaptive options out again. So, adaptive options.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's going to be cool to see how, there's ways to participate that aren't just always just a, quote unquote, able-bodied thing. So
Traditional way of
tradition,
playing golf.
exactly. So, excited about that. And we're still seeking sponsors. So if anyone's interested in sponsoring,
Yeah.
we'd love to talk with you.
Yeah. I will post all of that information, and then the website and a little bit of Justin's background and a little bit of background on the foundation in the show notes. And if you want to attend, all the information, September 14th again is the date if you want to sponsor or play or volunteer, right?
Or volunteer. Yes, we're seeking. So let me know. I'm happy to talk with all those things are of interest to you.
Well, I am. There couldn't be a better person to run the foundation. Justin, we didn't go through this again, but I'll put it in his bio. I mean, Justin is a wheelchair user as well. I kind of assumed that y'all know that, but and I just there couldn't be a better person to help raise the funds, to be more passionate about raising the funds, and just making sure that these all go to a good cause, Justin. So thank you for all that you do as the executive director of the Numotion Foundation.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that, Karen. I mean, we appreciate everything that you provide to our industry and been such a great, amazing, supporter. And I hate to use the word ambassador, but everybody knows who you are and what you do and how much you do for our population. And seriously, can't thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sweet. All right. Well, until we figure out another topic, then I guess it's just like so long. See you soon on another episode. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And please do, if you're out there and you're curious about the foundation, please visit numotionfoundation.org. If you're interested in applying for funding, that's available through the grants and sponsorship tab on the top of the website. And we can't provide individual funding, but we do provide support to other nonprofits. So
nonprofits,
right,
yeah.
And that rolls throughout the year. There's not a specific cutoff date, although we do tend to provide our last amount of funding probably in late October, early November, so it's kind of the very end cutoff date.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out through the website.
I'll put
or through my contact information that I'll pass.
Yeah, I'll put all that in the show notes.
All right.
Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you.